So I just got through reading Civil War II the other day, and I'm gonna be totally honest here, I'm completely lost. I mean, I've been reading comics and dealing with different types of superhero related media for years now, and this might be the first time I've ever actually gotten lost reading a comic book, especially an event comic where literally everything in the plot is brand new and spoon-fed to you pretty much from the beginning. Now, I'm not lost because of the laughably simple and paper-thin plot, okay? That's pretty simple and easy to get, and I'm gonna talk about that in a minute. No, what I don't get is why a majority of the things in the plot are actually happening. All the characters in this pointless story basically act like crazy people. They're fighting over some stupid Minority Report style policing with the weakest justifications I've ever seen in a story, with the ending to the main plot being incredibly ridiculous, weak, and just so fucking pointless. Don't get me wrong, there are some cool elements here too, but a majority of this comic was pretty awful. Now before I go any further, let me drop a quick spoiler warning stamp on here, just in case any of you guys haven't gotten around to reading any of this stuff yet. Alright, so the story is centered around this guy Ulysses. He's an Inhuman who has the power of precognition, meaning he can see the future. For whatever reason, everybody treats him like he's this ultra special person or something that they absolutely have to be involved with, because apparently nobody in the Marvel Universe has ever been able to see the future before. Oh wait. After the Avengers find out about him, Captain Marvel immediately jumps on board the seeing the future train and wants to start using Ulysses to predict when bad guys or evil plans are about to happen so that they can save more people. But Tony Stark immediately starts to pump the brakes on the whole situation and warns her not to go ahead and do that, insisting that if they go down that road, they'll eventually have to start profiling even each other if one of the visions shows them doing something wrong. Captain Marvel, of course, doesn't listen and uses Ulysses again anyway, leading to the Avengers, minus Iron Man, trying to stop one of Thanos' plots to get the Cosmic Cube. They end up winning, but they also get badly beaten, with She-Hulk essentially knocked into a coma and War Machine killed in action when Thanos blows a giant hole through his chest. Tony is understandably angry and makes a map of Ulysses' brain in order to study his powers and figure out how he works. Afterwards, Ulysses gets another vision, but this time of Bruce Banner as the Hulk, killing everyone. So the Avengers go to his house to lock him up, or at least see what he's doing. Bruce ends up getting agitated, but before anything can actually happen, he's killed with a specialty arrow by Hawkeye, who swears in court that Bruce was going to Hulk out and decided to act, as per Bruce's wishes from some time before the start of Civil War II. While grieving over the loss of his two friends, Tony's computers finally finish analyzing Ulysses, and as he shares with the other heroes, Ulysses actually only has a 10% chance of being correct with his visions and only picks details from a possible future, not necessarily the one that was going to happen before they intervene. So what does Captain Marvel do with all this information? She denies all the facts and starts kidnapping random people on the street, that's what. Of course, this is when we also see that Ulysses can be wrong, proving Tony's data, but whatever, Captain Marvel doesn't seem to care, so why should we, the readers? But this doesn't sit well with Tony, who has our unlucky captive here teleported out of her cell, leading to Tony's clearly more powerful group of heroes squaring off against those siding with Captain Marvel. Side note, there's really no setup for any of this in the main book. Everybody's just sort of already on one side or the other for some reason, but whatever, I digress. They fight, only stopping when Ulysses shows everyone another vision of Miles Morales apparently killing Captain America in front of the Capitol building. Captain Marvel wants him arrested, but everybody ends up talking her into letting Thor take him home instead. But because reasons, mid-flight, he decides he doesn't want to go home, and instead decides to head over to the Capitol building, where he meets and talks with Captain America. And just when it kind of looks like everything might be all good, Tony suddenly shows up in a War Machine painted Hulkbuster armor, very nice touch by the way, I kind of like that one, and starts duking it out with Captain Marvel. Meanwhile, Ulysses gets a more concentrated vision featuring a version of Old Man Logan, who tells him the world is in ruins because Tony Stark pushed Captain Marvel too much. So the Inhumans warn S.H.I.E.L.D. to get the two to stop fighting, and everybody jumps in on that idea, except by the time they do, Captain Marvel obliterates Tony's armor, seemingly killing him. Why she couldn't have just used a more restrained level of force to stop him, I don't know. We then get to see a bunch of different visions Ulysses has before he's picked up by Eternity. Apparently he's super powerful or something, and he's meant to be a cosmic being? What? We also find out that Tony isn't actually dead, but a bunch of experiments he did to himself in the past actually kept him alive, while Captain Marvel meets with the president and is offered unlimited resources to help guide the superhuman community into the future. Yay, nobody dies. Alright, so where do we even start with this? This Ulysses guy sucks. We're introduced to him at the very beginning of the story. We know nothing about him. We watch him either whine or barely interact with any of the main players in the story, and have him be built up by everybody in the story only for him to be taken away at the end of it. it. Why? Him being introduced added nothing to the story that Marvel couldn't have already done with any of the other characters they already had available. Like, oh, I don't know, the hundreds of other characters that have the exact same type of power he had? I can't understand why they wouldn't just use somebody like Destiny or Negasonic Teenage Warhead or literally anybody other than this whiny loser. As far as Destiny goes, she has the exact same power Ulysses has, and I think she's actually gotten more of her predictions right too, so why not just use her to kickstart this whole thing? She's dead? Who cares? Bring her back to life, or find another one of her diaries or something like that. But probably more importantly, if you are gonna stick with this guy, at least keep him around. Having him become a cosmic being at the end of your story just sort of guts the entire purpose behind Civil War 2. And Eternity says he's super powerful? Are you kidding me? Fucking hell, man, that's ridiculous. You're telling me that Ulysses, a guy we've never seen before, is this ultra powerful being that needs to be handpicked by cosmic beings, but Franklin Richards over here, a kid who we've seen can create universes on a whim, isn't and won't be picked up? Are you serious? And then there's the overall terrible writing. Look, I'm sure you guys have been seeing or hearing a bunch of people talk about whether or not Civil War 2 is as good or better or worse than the original Civil War from 2006, and if you haven't, let me sum it up for you right now. It isn't anywhere close to the original Civil War, not by a long shot. Look, Civil War, strictly from a storytelling perspective, made sense, alright? It was well paced, the plot actually had some precedents that it built off of, the whole thing worked. This mess doesn't. It's basically the anti-Civil War, where they take everything you liked about all your favorite characters like Iron Man and Captain Marvel and throws all of that stuff out, turning them into douchebags with very, very weak justifications for all the stuff they do. Especially Captain Marvel, who has got to be the worst character in this entire setup, and probably one of the worst things about this story in general. How the hell do you not only forget about every other precog psychic in your universe, ignore every fact thrown your way, making this whole plan of yours a bad idea, and just decide to go around doing whatever you want, almost kill a guy, actually kill a guy, and cause problems for a whole bunch of different relationships, all while still basically being coddled by everybody and told you're the good guy here? At least in Civil War there was some ambiguity, and people could feel at least a little conflicted about what side they would be on. Here, there's nothing like that. Every single time Captain Marvel makes a decision, it's very clearly the wrong one. And yet every single character makes it sound like Iron Man is the crazy one, or the one in the wrong, or however else you want to look at it. And on top of all of that, there's the mountain of tie-in comics. Look, I get that every comic book event needs to have some tie-ins. I really do understand that, but the fact that there's a whole bunch of extremely relevant story information hidden away in these things, it's just so stupid, especially when your main title, you know, the actual event, is only 8 issues long. You can afford to squeeze some extra stuff in there. For example, in the main story, we see a couple of visions that have big consequences in the main plot. You know, like when Spider-Man kills Captain America or Hulk kills the Avengers, but then it turns out that at least some of those could be faked, or at least programmed to work out in somebody's favor. In the tie-in Captain America Steve Rogers issue number 5, we find out that Steve's been manipulating things behind the scenes, causing Ulysses to have the Hulk vision and trying to either kill the dude in his sleep or kidnap him for the Red Skull. You see, stuff like that is kinda important, so it'd make more sense to have something like that in the actual comic. Alright, what were they thinking? Pulling an EA and tucking 90% of your story into more and more tie-ins readers have to get in order to understand the full story is just so fucking stupid, and I can't stand when companies do it, especially when you're a company marketing earth-shattering, status quo-changing storylines to your customers. Alright, so all in all, I gotta give this thing 2 out of 5 cap shields, because even after the terrible writing, characters, motivations, and behind-the-scenes decision-making, there are some good elements here too. Alright, I mean, I guess the art is kinda cool. That one shot of Tony in the Hulkbuster War Machine armor was awesome. The multiple futures look like they'll make some really interesting comics, and I'll probably do a video about them soon. And at least the main story helped me forget Captain America is supposed to be a bad guy now, since they just sorta ignored that the entire time. But that's pretty much it. The rest of it sucked. 2 out of 5. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to click that like button, maybe leave me a comment while you're at it, and go ahead and click that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to check out any of my social media pages. I've got a Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram. All those links are going to be in the description below. And I've also got my last video right there in the middle of your screen. So if you want to check that out, go ahead and click it, check it out. Alright, and I will see you all next time.